I've just been moving all plants outside because it's raining again. I take advantage of that when I can. I just put everything on one big tray and move all lot out for about an hour. Bring them back in, and that's job done. But at the moment we're concentrating on sowing and growing in April. And we've already done the first 2 weeks, so we've just got week 3 and week 4 to go. So what we'll do is we'll do both those at the same time on this video. Obviously what I cover is not going to be every single thing that you could be sowing and growing in April. It just covers more the main things that you can do. And of course, once we get to the 1st of May, there's going to be a lot more. So starting on week 3, you can still sow some broccoli or Calabrese if you want to. There's plenty of time to be growing that. So just pop a couple of seeds in a tray. At least that way, if one doesn't germinate, you know there's a good chance that the other will. We've already mentioned the shallots on previous video, but when we get to week 3, that's the time that you want to be putting out all your onion sets. You don't want to be putting them out much later than that because they need quite a long growing season. And again, if you're just putting them into a raised bed outside, you need to really cover them up with something to stop birds pulling them up. And it's going to take about 5 weeks before them roots are strong enough to prevent that, before you can take that covering off. So you'd be better off using something like a net, so at least rain can get through that and daylight. So get all your onion sets in before end of this month. And if you've got onions that's grown from seed, you might want to get those in as well, because they're going to take quite a bit longer than a set before they reach maturity. And because by now it will have been 2 weeks since that first video we did, you need to be re-sowing all your salads. So you re-sow more beetroot, more spinach, more lettuce, maybe a bit of radish for an extra spicy flavour. But we just need to make sure that we're doing that once every 2 weeks, and that includes your spring onions, because that way, between the end of April and the end of the season, you'll never be without a salad of some kind. So basically week 3 is more of a repeat of all those things that you sowed in week 1. Anything that's fast growing that you're going to eat regular through summer months. And when we get to week 4, then there's going to be more things that you can actually just sow directly outside from seed. And that includes things like broccoli and Calabrese, and also cabbage as well for a later harvest. Your cauliflower plants now should have reached a decent size. So you want to start and offer these plants a bit of feed once a week, because we're trying to grow those as quick as we can before it gets too hot and they go to seed. So all your brassicas that you've got planted outside in your raised beds or your containers that are of a good size, just give those a little bit of feed once a week. Then we'll move back to more tender plants that we can start sowing, and they're things like cucumbers and melons and courgettes. But again, you'd be better off sowing those seeds indoors. At least you know they're staying warm and they're going to germinate a lot quicker, and once they're germinated they're going to grow very quick anyway. But we held off on things like that because it's just been too cold basically. But by the last week in April it's definitely going to start to feel a bit warmer, and we've got much better light levels, so that's the best time to sow the seeds for those. But there's also another type of cucumber that you can get, and it's called a ridge cucumber. Things like market more, and they're basically adapted to grow outside. So if you've got any little containers, you could sow some seeds outside somewhere, as long as you've passed your frost date of course. But obviously it would make more sense to sow those seeds indoors anyway, and then move the plants outdoors to a permanent location once you've hardened those plants off. And by hardening off, that means anything that you've grown indoors under protection, you've got to get them used to the outside, get them climatised before they're permanently put outside. So you'd have to bring those out every day for a week, just for a couple of hours. And by the week's end, they'll have got used to that change, and then you'd be fine to just pop them straight outside. So you want some kind of a trellis to grow these cucumbers up as well. So if you haven't got one already, maybe think about getting one built, because they'll grow much better vertically. And if you have them going across floor, then they're going to suffer with problems with damp. Obviously more susceptible to attack from bugs. By now that Kohlrabi that we mentioned in a previous video should be a decent size, and once again you need to start hardening that off as well, or anything that you've basically got growing indoors at the moment. You should also have some little trays with your seedlings in of lettuce that you've grown a couple of weeks ago. And again, they should be of a decent size now, so you can start pricking those out and moving them on to bigger containers. And again, that's that process that you're going to keep repeating all through season. Every couple of weeks you sow some, and then every couple of weeks you're pricking out the seedlings and moving them on. And we've already sowed some seeds for Swiss Chard, but we sowed them indoors under protection. But by the end of April you'll be perfectly fine to sow chard directly outside from seed, and it won't need any protection either. But as with any raised bed that we have in this garden, it's going to have problems with cats. They can't resist digging up those freshly dug and raked raised beds. So if you put any seeds sown directly into raised beds, you're better off covering them up with some netting of some kind, or you're definitely not going to get things growing in straight rows. And the last thing that I'll be doing at the end of April is starting to sow things like squash and pumpkin, because we're approaching May by then, and those plants will have germinated and got to an half decent size by mid-May, so they can go straight into your greenhouses, whether it be in containers or in ground. So there's loads and loads of things that you can do. We've already grown some peas and we've put them in a planter, but we'll be sowing more peas through April, and that'll be as main crop peas as well to last us all the way through the season. But we like to sow them early because peas don't like the weather being too hot, so we've already got some growing away. We've got a few spare as well. We haven't decided where we're putting those just yet, but we'll be doing another set of peas, and we'll do different types of peas. We'll do petit pois, and we'll do some more of those sugar snaps as well. But if you're growing peas and runner beans and things like that, then it's a good idea, before them plants have reached a mature size, to get your frames together in garden. You can just make wigwams out of canes, dig them into ground, tie the tops together, then you can plant all your beans around the bottom of that structure, and they'll just quite happily grow up it, and they'll twist around those canes until they've reached the top. And you can get canes pretty cheap from Wilko as well, or you could just make your own structure out of some other type of wood, or use a trellis. So once again, there's little bits and bobs that you need to be looking at in garden, because once all these plants have germinated, you need to make sure you know there's somewhere to put them after that. So tidy up your raised beds, get some containers ready, or build the structures that they're going to require, so then at least you know they're there when you need them. So that's lots and lots of things to do through April. And of course we'll be doing another video in May, because in May there's also lots and lots to do. And once again we'll break that up into parts, so it's not just one long drawn out video lasting 40 minutes or more. Because it's May, we'll be approaching its last frost date, so that's the time of the year when you can basically sow anything that you want, and all your beds and containers outside should be alright to put things straight in. And obviously we'll be working on greenhouses, getting this ground dug up and getting things planted in ground in the greenhouses, and that's going to be more tender things like cucumbers, tomatoes and peppers. But we will be keeping the tomatoes and the peppers separate because they don't grow well together. So all those things are going to keep you pretty busy through April. And if you're interested in seeing what we do through May, hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell. And we'll see you next time. Take care and have a nice weekend.